What's up guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic part 2. Which is what if Naruto awakened the power of Sparda Naruto X Devil May Cry part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel Anime Hub 1.2 for more fanfic like T.S. And now let's start the fanfic. Deep within a dark cavern, a white-haired boy could be seen walking in the darkness, holding a lit flame in his palm. He has been here now for over 20 minutes and has yet to see a light at the end of this tunnel. Sure, he felt a large amount of demonic energy held within this place but was still wondering what could possibly transmit that kind of power. Kit, I think I might know what it is, Kyuubi said, though Naruto was able to keep his focus and talk to the fox. Well, whatever it is, tell me while I'm in a good mood. God knows I want to get the outta here, Naruto stated as he saw only more darkness, though thankfully he still had his night vision, which was helping him out more than the fire could do for him right now. I think that this is the spot where Dante hid his devil arms, after the battle on the Temen Nigru, Kyuubi said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. The Temen what? Exactly. The Temen Nigru was an edifice constructed by the High Council of Demons 2000 years back as a border between human and demon worlds. While this happened, several demons came into the human world only for Dante to take them out one by one and eventually gaining Sparda's greatest weapon, the Force Edge, Kyuubi said with Dante nodding, confirming that his words were indeed true. The Force Edge, why didn't they have it with them when I met them? Because a long time ago, when the Devil King made his return, Dante had to use not only the Force Edge to reseal him, but all the devil arms he gained in his life. They were spread across to unknown locations, but the Force Edge was never seen again. But somehow I am getting this familiar sense about this place, and I don't know why exactly, Kyuubi said with Naruto finding his solution in a small light in front of him, even though the temperature kept dropping by the second, but thanks to Kyuubi, the cold didn't affect him like most would think. When he came out of the light, he saw that he was now in some kind of courtyard covered in snow and ice. It confused him greatly, as how the hell was he supposed to underground and there was snow on the ground in a courtyard? Oh shit, Naruto. Be very careful here, you are not alone, Nero said, as he remembered this exact same scene and what will happen next. Before he could respond, two red females came into view and each one had a very wry voice to them. Hey there big boy, did you come here to play us? One of the females said with one of them feeling on his body. Kid, resist the temptation. This all the work of Dagon, the ice toad demon, Kyuubi said with urgency, knowing that the demon toads loved to use deception on their victims. Naruto nodded and jumped away from the two girls, just in time too, as in that second a huge light blue toad with ice particles on its back came into the light and tried to chomp on the white-haired boy, only to see said boy now standing in front of him with a questioning look. What the hell are you? Naruto asked, seeing the demon shake its head, showing that the women were actually his feelers. Who are you? Nobody has ever been able to resist the temptation before, as all that have succumbed to it has perished severely, Dagon said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. He has never seen anything like this before and was now wondering how his ancestors faced this thing. Naruto, use me to help you fight this thing, Kyuubi said with Naruto nodding. Any word of advice? Naruto asked as he summoned Kyuubi to his hands, which turned his eyes red once more, and the blade was lit on fire. Just one, stay as far away as you can from his mouth, but his tongue is his weak point for some odd reason, since a toad's strong point is always its tongue. Just stay clear of his mouth and you should be able to kill him very easily, Kyuubi said with Naruto nodding, before he saw Dagon try to take a bite out of him only to slash the toad across its lips, making it recoil and jump back. Ah, you damn human, I'll make you pay for that, Dagon said before extending his hind legs and let the ice particles on his back fly towards Naruto, who was already ahead of him. Naruto jumped towards the ice and bounced off the ones that were the closets, before he slashed downward at Dagon's body, sending a wave of fire at the toad, who took the hit and screamed in pain. Naruto took advantage of this situation, and went in a nosedive and stabbed Dagon's head, making him scream in pain, only to shake Naruto off his head and inhale a lot of air. Naruto looked up and saw him begin to inhale. Kid, Be very careful of the next move. What he will do is completely cover the area in darkness in order to make you remain where you are, while he himself pounces on you to devour you. Kyuubi said, knowing that one of the things that the toad demons used to capture their victims was their abilities to hide perfectly in shadows before striking. However, Naruto was too late, as Dagon exhaled and the area was now covered in a dark snowstorm. Naruto tried to look around with his night vision, but even that could not help him to see Dagon's whereabouts. If I don't see him, then I'm dead, and if I stay here, then I'm dead. So what the hell do I do? He asked himself before a light bulb went off in his head and got ready for what he expected. It's dinner time, shouted Dagon, as he jumped from the darkness and appeared before Naruto with his mouth open, but was soon shocked when Naruto jumped in his direction with his sword in a stabbing pose. Sishin, I heard your tongue is your weak point. Let's test that theory, shall we? Naruto said as he stabbed the blade of the Kyuubi into Dagon's tongue, making the toad demon howl in pain. But the sound didn't affect the boy, as he summoned Kyuubi's flame to his extended hand, before slamming it into the tongue, making it catch fire, causing the toad demon more pain than he could handle, and quickly spat out Naruto. The white-haired boy landed on his feet and ran forward holding Kyuubi with both of his arms. The blade ignited in flames as he himself was covered with Kyuubi's chakra, making him run faster. Dagon looked up to see Naruto running towards him with his sword in both hands, but the pain was still there and he could only do nothing but watch his demise come. When the white-haired boy neared, said boy jumped towards him and stabbed him on his forehead, which was where his brain should be located, and sent as much of his sword's fire as he could muster from the sword to the demon's inner skull. Once he felt that he gave enough, the boy jumped off. The white-haired boy watched as the blood exploded from Dagon's wound on his forehead before it fell over. Naruto quickly returned Kyuubi and watched as the body looked to have a seizure before a white orb came out of the demon's body and headed toward him. He already knew what this meant. It was time for him to gain a brand new devil arm, and he wondered what it would be. He extended his hand as the orb came to him, and in a flash of light, the item revealed itself to be a briefcase. It was a dark blue briefcase with the image of demon on the front with yellow lines constantly appearing every few seconds. He was a little confused until the information came to his head and a smirk came to his face. Let's see, this is what's known as Pandora's box. A box that can form up to 666 types of weapons, but it appears that I only have about 9 forms unlocked. It also appears that my devil essence has absorbed Dagon's dark shroud technique. That's okay for now, but let's see what you can do. Naruto thought as he gave Pandora a try, not really noticing that his eyes were now silted gunmetal gray. He used all 7 forms that went in this order. Form number PF-124. Epidemic showed itself to be a powerful blowgun that could ravage the land with one shot. Form number PF-262. Hatred showed itself to be a secondary addition to the blowgun, by becoming a bazooka which added more firepower. Then came the next transformation as form number PF-398. Revenge became a laser cannon, which could destroy everything in the surrounding area. Form number PF-422. Grief became a bladed boomerang. Form number PF-542. Savagery became a bladed edged shield. Form number PF-608. Jealousy became a high-power machine gun. Form number PF-598. Argument that turned the box into a floating platform chair with missile launchers all over the form. Then lastly came the final form number PF-666. Omen, which opened the box although its ability was unknown to him. I never did understand that form and what it was able to do. Naruto liked all these forms and could not wait to use them till Kyuubi spoke. Hey kid, try PF-007, Envy. I think you'll like that one. Kyuubi said with Naruto shrugging his shoulders and mentally commanding the box to make that form. Naruto's eyes widened when the box became a sports bike. I don't want to describe it, so I'll just tell you. It's a 2009 Suzuki bike and the color is dark blue, of course, with the only difference being that Naruto's bike has Pandora's image on the front. Naruto placed his hands on the handle of the bike and revved it up, hearing the back wheels grind on the ground and the small jet behind it hum. He got on it and without anything else to say, the bike went off and he was now riding towards the next battle. 20 minutes later. The former blonde made it to an area that looked as if it was completely covered in ice, with a cave right in front of him. Seeing that is the best place to go, he called back Pandora and began walking towards the cave. Once he entered the cave, he saw that all the walls were completely covered in ice, but thanks to Kyuubi, he was able to withstand any temperature below 500 degrees C. He looked around and saw that there was a giant thing in front of him covered in what looked like ice armor and had chains connecting its body to the wall. Now this is strange. What the hell is that? Ah, that is good old Cerberus, the Ice Guardian. He is a very noble demon and is very strong when he gets either serious or really pissed. Kyuubi said while continuing his explanation to his vessel. He is a three-headed dog, which can scare easily if you aren't one of us. He mainly uses ice attacks and his size, but once you get past that measure you should be able to take him down very easily. I advise you to use either Kyuubi or Rebellion, as his main weakness is fire and inconveniently, his size. Kyuubi said, as he remembered when he first fought Cerberus and how hard it was to take him down. After digesting all that, he turned to examine the huge beast that was Cerberus. Just as he stepped forward, however, the room began to shake and he quickly jumped back, dodging the large block of ice that came crashing to the floor. Looking back towards the creature, he could now see it was a large dog with 3 heads each with different colored eyes. Leave now, mortal. The likes of you are forbidden in this land, you who are powerless are not worth to set foot here. Came a masculine voice from the dog demon's center head, shocking the boy. Wow, I've never seen a talking mutt before. I can walk up walls and seen people walk on water, but still this takes the cake. You know, I'd bet you'd be a shoo-in for first prize at a dog show. Said the white-haired genin, smirking at the end. You, a mere human, dare make a mockery of me? Growled the beast. Just as it finished that sentence, it arched its center head back, red eyes glowing before sending a blast of ice towards the boy from its mouth. Seeing it coming, the genin dodged it, jumping over it before landing on his feet calmly. Easy there, Fido. How about I take you for a walk? He said before clapping his hands as a means to calling a dog. Come on, Fido, let's go, boy. He said while whistling to the dog as if calling him. You'll regret that, you worm. Snarled Cerberus, getting a smirk from the boy. Naruto then held up his right arm and called out, Rebellion, with the broadsword appeared in his hands, and a smirk came to his face. Cerberus wasted no time and launched a ball of ice at the white-haired boy, who cut it in half before running forward calling out, Stinger, and went like a bullet at Cerberus's right leg. The sword pierced the dog demon's skin, which made it grunt before raising its left paw and try to take out the white-haired boy, only for Naruto to vanish in thin air. The white-haired boy then reappeared in the air and chucked Rebellion at Cerberus' left head, before he pulled out his guns and fired off several shots, with one hitting the handle of his sword and making it fly faster and hit the ice on top of the head and broke it off instantly. Naruto then sent himself flying towards the sword with an extended right foot and kicked the sword through the head, making it scream aloud. It was silenced quickly when Naruto summoned Kyuubi and sliced the head off, leaving Cerberus with only 2. The dog demon got so mad that it turned red and was now looking fiercer than before. Naruto called back Kyuubi and held his hand out, and Rebellion flew back to his hands. When that happened, he jumped over Cerberus, who charged at him as a means to eat him. Naruto landed on his feet only to dodge another attack from Cerberus, who used his voice to rock the area and caused ice particles to fall from the ceiling. He quickly placed the sword on his back and used the skills he gained from his training in the trickster style to dodge all the particles. He quickly jumped into the air to dodge a large blast of ice that Cerberus sent his way. He took out Blood Fang and charged it with as much chakra as he could into the gun, before pulling the trigger, and watched as the bullets hit his right head and exploded in fire, making the demon cry out in pain, with the ice being blown off completely as well as the center head. Naruto then got an idea and knew that this would work. He quickly placed Rebellion on his back before he crossed his fingers for his favorite jutsu, and made about 30 clones. Cerberus then looked to see the white-haired boy with 30 clones of himself, each holding copies of Angel, Reaper, and Blood Fang in their hands, which was currently being charged by the clones. It was not hard to find the original, as said original was standing tall, with his arms crossed. Naruto then grasped Rebellion's handle and held it above his head, ready Naruto with the clones getting on one knee, aim. Naruto said with the clones aiming the guns. He then pointed Rebellion's tip at Cerberus and called out, fire. Which they in fact did, letting loose a large barrage of bullets at the demon's body, which made said demon cry out in pain. Naruto kept the clone's barrage going for a full minute before he saw the demon's body hit the ground hard. Naruto called the clones to a halt, and dismissed then feeling the information and memories they obtained during their time. Naruto approached Cerberus, who was trying to stand but was doing a sad job of that. You're not human, are you? Questioned Cerberus from his position on the ground. Who knows? I'm not even sure myself anymore. Said Naruto with a laugh. He had been asking that one question about himself now for the longest time, as he had the mind of a human but the power of a demon. Maybe he was the balance in between, but he would not be able to tell at the moment. Regardless, you have proven your ability. I know when I'm beaten by someone stronger. Cerberus said, standing up, and coughed loudly. You have earned your victory and shall take hold of my soul. Now go forward with my blessing. Cerberus said. He began to shudder and his body exploded. When the smoke cleared, all that could be seen was a glowing blue sphere of light. Naruto sighed as it floated near him. The damn dog could have at least pointed the way out first. Regardless of this, he accepted the dog's soul as it came to him just before a flash of light hit him. When the light cleared, he was holding a tripartite nunchaku. Each rod was connected to a steel ring. As he held it, an icy blue glue began to surround him just before his eyes glazed over. When he came to, he gained a ton of knowledge about the devil arm he was holding. This weapon had a new style to it, in which you would have to require extreme amount of skill to wield such a weapon. He then looked at one of the ice particles and saw that his eyes were now light blue due to devil essence taking effect. He felt with this weapon, he could fight, no matter what the situation was, in a calm and even feeling. He also learned all of Cerberus's ice techniques, which was another addition to his power. It seems like with each devil arm I receive, I learn the attacks they used as well. Interesting. Naruto said to himself, before putting Cerberus away. He then felt something on his body, and when he looked at it, he saw that he had 2 new tattoos. He saw that he now had a new one under his left arm and one under his right arm. The one on his left arm was the face of Pandora's box with yellow veins appearing around it. On his right arm looked like a light blue arrow with 2 more coming out of the end of it, though that one looked like a clear snowflake. He smirked at his new tattoo and was now on his way out of the area. 2 hours later, the white-haired genin smirked as he finally made it to the end of the long hallway. It had taken him a while to get to this point as he'd walked slowly through the darkness. The journey, however, had given him the time to work on one of his senses. This sense he had discovered was known as echolocation. This was not as much of a sense but was more like a talent that allowed those capable of using it to locate objects by the reflection of sound, though it was mostly found in animals like bats and owls. According to Kyuubi, what he had was several times stronger than that, as it allowed him to see the things around him up in a radius of 20 feet around him without a single blind spot. Shaking himself from his thoughts, he found he was currently in front of a large gate that was closed with on bars going both vertically and horizontally with torches on each side. In front of the gate was a large chain that was blocking access to the next room and was connected to statues on each side of the gate. These statues took the form of 2 bodies sitting down on stone slabs and holding a pair of broadswords, which had the chains wrapped around the blades. Look, brother. It's been ages, but we finally have company, said a deep voice that reverberated within the cave. I see that, said another voice, though this one was lighter in tone. We must entertain our guest. You're right, we have to be gracious host. Quote, so, what should we do? How should I know? We need to come up with something. Naruto sighed hearing this, wondering when this conversation would be over. Brother, it appears our guest is sighing, said the first voice. Yes, much like the last guest we had, responded the second. Look, I don't know about any other guest, but this one wants through that gate and out of this damn cave, interrupted the white-haired boy, obviously having enough of the 2 talking statues. Just after he finished, the room began to shake and the statues began to not only move but stand and change. When the 2 statues stood tall and were fully formed in color, they took the form of 2 headless bodies, one blue and one red, each only covered by a loincloth. Each of them had what looked like scales on their right arms and both carried a sword that had what looked like a head topping the handle with glowing eyes. He also noticed each of the swords had serrated edges. Our job here is to guard this gate, said the red one. That's right, only those worthy may fear, said the blue one. I am Agni, said the red one. I am Rudra, said the blue one. We are known as the Firestorm, stated the two together, as they jumped from their position and stood before Naruto with their swords being surrounded by fire for the red one and wind for the blue one. They each sent a combined strike at Naruto, with their swords helping the other by sending flames at Naruto, who jumped back and looked at the two headless freaks. Okay, if you guys know anything about Twiddleda and Twiddledum, now would be a great time to tell me. Naruto said, dodging another strike from the headless demon, tightened his grip on Rebellion and held it in both hands, ready to defend himself at any given moment. NT. Agni and Rudra are both powerful demons, but as you said, they are incredible stupid and can be beaten easily. All you have to do is overpower one and the other will come after you to defend him. Just don't allow them the opportunity to double team you, as they work well together, but separately they are nothing. Kyuubi said. Any weakness I should know about? Naruto asked, jumping over Agni's sword strike and blocked Rudra's before jumping over Rudra, to see that Agni tried to slice him in half. Surprisingly enough, Rudra's weakness is ice, so use Cerberus if you need to, but I wouldn't recommend that as you just got it with no training. As for Agni, I don't know, he said as Naruto dodged another strike and now stood on the other side of the area. So I have to try to find another way. Oh well, I guess I should have seen that coming, he thought before jumping back as Agni tried to take him out once more. Naruto then extended Rebellion and called out, Prop Shredder, and spun his sword around his hand, which connected on Agni and sent him up into the air. Naruto reappeared above him and did some quick slashes before hitting Agni hard enough to send his body back to the ground hard. Naruto then did some quick seals and called out, Fire Release, Heat Cannon, and exhaled a large plume of fire that hit Agni's body and incarcerated him in a matter of minutes. Brother, Rudra called out, watching the body of his brother die before his eyes. He quickly jumped back to where he once sat and held out his sword. When he did that, the sword that was once held by Agni seemed to have a reaction and came to Rudra's hand. When that happened, both blades exploded in flames before Rudra charged at the white-haired boy, who was already prepared for him. Rudra landed with a heavy thud before he began to roll towards Naruto, who summoned Pandora and fired a shot from its epidemic form. The shot connected and sent Rudra's body back to the wall behind him. Not willing to waste any time, Naruto turned Pandora straight into its revenge form and charged it while Rudra got back up. When the headless demon got up, he could only look up as Naruto finished his charge and fired his attack, hitting Rudra and destroyed his body instantly. The only thing that survived were the two swords that he wielded as they now sat on the floor standing. Naruto simply put Pandora away and placed Rebellion on his back and was about to walk away. Wait. The familiar voices caught him by surprise, forcing him to turn back around. When he did, he found the eyes of the two swords staring at him intently. Yes, wait, we have been waiting for a long time, stated the red sword, surprising Naruto, though he supposed he should not have been, as neither of the ogres he had faced had heads or mouths with which to speak. Yes, a very long time, spoke the blue one, its deeper voice echoing in the quiet cave. For someone stronger than us. Someone who can control us. My name is Agni. And my name is Rudra. You shall take us with you. We shall be a great help to you, said both together, surprising the blonde with the request, though only his raised eyebrow showed this. Okay, but on two conditions, said the boy calmly after a few seconds of thought. Name them, said the two swords instantly. Firstly, I want to know everything you know about this place and how I can get out and back to the top floor, said the white-haired boy before looking pointedly at the two, quietly demanding the answers. This place is known as the Demon Corridor, due to the clan that lived here being experts at using demons as weapons and such, Agni said, with Naruto's eyes widening slightly, but didn't let that bother him. They all were very powerful in using demons, and on occasions we would be used to help fight with some members, Rudra said, with Naruto nodding. Okay, but what became of the clan? He asked, even though he had a suspicion on who this mystery clan was. We don't know. All we know is that about 100 years, there was an attack on this home and we were placed here as a means of protecting the clan's secrets from escaping. Though they said that the time will come when a warrior would return here, and take control of the guardians as well as the secrets of the clan. Agni said with Rudra shaking, which meant that he nodded his head. We do however know the name of the clan that once lived here. Rudra said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. Really, what was the clan's name? Naruto asked. Their name was Kazama, the holders of demons. Agni and Rudra said at the same time, with Naruto rubbing his chin, deep in thought. This is very interesting. I have to learn more about this clan, but apparently if I want to learn more I would have to keep going up. Single quote. Okay. You can come along, but just one more thing though. No talking, stated the boy, finally pointing to each of the swords in turn. Fair enough, stated Agni. As you wish, stated Rudra. With that said, he grabbed each of the swords, Agni with his right and Rudra with his left, before turning towards the gates. As he did, the blades of the swords were engulfed in their respective elements just as he let loose several experimental slashes. Placing the two hilts together, he was surprised when they seemed to meld together, forming one large double-bladed sword as wind and fire began to encircle him. Sending several more slashes out, he launched several blades of wind-enhanced fire at the gate, which not only cut through it but also melted the places they hit before he pulled the blades apart. Impressive, said Rudra as he finished his swings, only for Naruto to come out of his stance and hit each of the hilts against the other. No talking, said the boy, again looking at the two faces intently, getting silence from each of them. Good. Satisfied with the silence, he dismissed them and was not surprised when they each burst into particles of light before being absorbed into his body, bringing out a new tattoo for him to gaze. The tattoo went under his right forearm this time, and that looked like a red and blue yin-yang symbol with the faces of Agni and Rudra on the opposite ends of the symbols. After enjoying the new tattoo, he began to walk away from the area he once stood in, and began walking to the next one. Later on, after 20 minutes of traveling, the boy arrived at an area. He quickly called back Pandora, after getting off course, and walked towards the stone walkway that had an open door at the end. As he entered the doorway at the end of the stone walkway, he found himself in a large room, the walls of which were lined with candles. In front of him sat a set of steps leading up to what appeared to be a stage, while to the side of him was an organ with golden pipes traveling up the wall. His observations were halted, however, as he noticed a swarm of bats converging on a single point in front of him. As they continued to converge, the form of a woman could be made out. She had light green skin with long blood red hair. She wore no shirt but had parts of her hair hanging down her fro to cover her rather large. She wore what looked to be a long black skirt, which completely covered her lower half, though Naruto was surprised as he noticed that the bats were actually forming the skirt as they converged upon her, while those that did not flew behind her. Finally, the boy noticed the fangs she had within her mouth. Overall, it was enough to make the boy blush a bright shade of red, though he reined in the impulse. The woman laughed as she noticed the reaction she had elicited from the boy with her appearance. The sound was sweet on the boy's ears, and he would have taken her for a water goddess if he did not know she was a demon. Careful, Kit, came the warning growl from Kyuubi upon hearing the former blonde's thoughts. That is Nevin, the lightning witch. As you can most likely guess, she has power over lightning, explained Kyuubi to his host. You know her? Questioned the boy mentally. She's a succubus and one of the few with any real power, and famous for it. Sparda had a run-in with her before she was sealed in the Temen Negru, and again with Dante. The bats hovering behind her will act as shields for her, so your guns are out. The bats only clear when she gets ready to attack, other than that you'll have to force past them. You'll need to be careful with this one. Otherwise she'll suck you dry, and with your healing that'll take a while. Explained Kyuubi, though he only thought the last bit. Anything on a weakness I should know about? Naruto thought as he tried to keep his eyes off the demoness' exposed body. Once again her weakness is to ice, but once more you don't know how to use Cerberus at all. You should use me, as that will help you fight her lightning power with my fire power. Kyuubi said, with Naruto nodding before Nevin spoke to him, breaking him from his mental conversation with his demon. Welcome, sir. I take it this is your first time here. said Nevin sensually as she approached the young boy, breaking him away from his discussion with Kyubi. Yay, it is. You'll be nice to me, won't you? Of course I will, stated the woman as she walked around the boy. I'll treat you so nicely you'll never want to leave, stated the woman as she came to stand in front of the boy, taking in his appearance. She couldn't help but notice that he was quite handsome for a boy his age, and the power radiating off his body. She felt the power earlier but simply tuned it out as one of the demons trapped down getting into a scuffle, but now it appeared that they have all fallen at the hands of this boy, and no. W wanted to make said boy into a man. I'm afraid that while that sounds nice, I can't, as I have to be back home soon and I can't exactly stay here. Even if it does involve for all eternity, he said with the green-skinned succubus laughing to herself before a smirk came to her face. I'll tell you what. We'll make a little deal after our fight. If I win, I get what I want from you, but if you win, well, I'll tell you if you do win. Nevin said, brushing her hand on Naruto's crouch area, making the white-haired boy blush. Nevin then walked forward, letting her hand brush on his crouch for a few more seconds before walking a couple of steps forward, before turning and blowing a kiss at the boy, which looked like a strange purple mist. Naruto simply extended his right arm and called out, Kyubi, brining the Nodaichi blade to his hands. He then looked towards Nevin with his silted red eyes and deep smirk as he pointed his sword towards the succubus. Oh, don't worry, I will win, he said with the woman chuckling to herself before motioning him to come at her, which he did. Naruto ignited Kyubi and sent a slash through the air, forming a crescent moon blast and headed right for Nevin, who summoned her bats and blocked the attack. She then sent her palms forward and sent a blast of lightning at Naruto, who rolled to the side and sent more fire at the succubus, who kept blocking with her bats. Naruto then dismissed Kyubi and summoned rebellion to his hands. He then charged forward, while called out, Stinger, and charged at Nevin, extending the pointed tip sword at Nevin. The green-skinned demon blocked the attack once more, but this time she sent her bats to surround Naruto and sent blast of lightning at the former blonde. Naruto quickly directed chakra to his legs and pushed himself off the ground, then placed rebellion on his hands before doing some seals and called out, wind release, drilling air bullet, and sent the air blast at Nevin, who jumped back and dodged the attack before sending another lightning blast. Naruto. Naruto was lucky he training in Dante's old trickster style, as he was able to easily dodge that attack before taking out a kunai and threw it at Nevin, while doing some seals and turned the kunai into 50. Nevin had her bats go above her head and make a prison of lightning in front of her before shooting towards the white-haired boy, destroying the kunai. Naruto was able to dodge all the blast of lightning, but when he looked back to where he thought Nevin was, she was gone. He then heard a chuckling sound behind him as he looked to see Nevin. Game over, sugar, she said before hitting Naruto with a lightning blast. Naruto got on his knees and coughed before he puffed out of existence. Nevin's eyes widened before she looked behind her back, only to be hit by another stinger attack and called out, Dance Macabre. From that moment, he began to stab the demoness with as many stabs as he could give before giving one mighty stab that sent her flying back and landed on her back, but she didn't get up. Naruto panted deeply. That move took a lot out of him. Sure, he was able to do it, but he still has yet to gain the speed needed to use all the moves without chakra. To perform 3 stingers, summon Kyubi and Rebellion, using those 2 jutsus, and the Dance Macabre, he was tired as hell. But thankfully Kyubi was recharging his tanks and he now had enough energy to at least walk. He walked over to Nevin and picked the green-skinned demoness off the ground, holding her in his arm. He was surprised to see that she was still alive after all that, but it didn't matter now as Nevin looked towards him with a small smile. Not bad, sugar. To think I met someone just as handsome as Sparda, Nevin said, brushing her hand on the boy's cheek, though Naruto took her hand in his. Very well then, come see me later, my master, and I'll show you my surprise, Nevin said as her hand laid on the ground. Naruto then watched as her body flashed white and purple before the light left and he was now holding his newest weapon. It was an odd-looking guitar, which held no strings, instead having streaks of purple lighting streaming down it. Once his hands touched the weapon, he felt more power added to him and could not help but feel electric in certain words. He pulled off his headband in order to look at the reflective surface for something, and saw just that, as his eyes were now dark purple. Man, I love this shit. It's like every time I get a new power, I gain a new form. I can't wait to train with this baby. Naruto thought, strumming the guitar and played a few notes before allowing the weapon to go back into his body. He then looked and saw that he now had the tattoo of a black and purple bat on his chest with the wings going up to the collarbone. Very well done on that, kit. You obviously have been very well trained in our arts, but just wait until you train with the other devil arms. Kyuubi said, with Naruto nodding his head before another smirk came to his face. He was getting more powerful by the second, and it was all his power now. He could practically say that he had more power than he could measure, but before he could have another thought on it, Kyuubi interfered. Naruto, stop. Listen to me. If you think like that, your arrogance will be your downfall. Kyuubi said, making Naruto pause at what he was told. He then went over what just happened and slapped his head. How could he think like that? If he did, then that would make him no better than Sasuke Tem. He wanted to be better than that, and now he cannot afford to be arrogant if he wanted to get out of here in one piece. I almost lost myself there. Maybe it's the fact that I keep adding onto my power which would make me think that. Naruto thought, before summoning Pandora and sending the box straight to its bike form and left the area. He needed to ride for a while before he continued through the next door. Later on, Naruto once again arrived at another door, though this one was different. The door held what looked like gemstones above it with the kanjis for strength, knowledge, and courage. He did not really know why, but for some reason he felt some type of connection here. He looked at the door more carefully and saw a scripture on it. He read the scripture thoroughly, but all it did for him was make him confused with its message. You who enter this chamber, be warned. Those who disturb the rest of the demons shall incite the fury of the guardians. To escape with your life, you must complete 4 trials. He who completes every trial will earn the key of fire and the guardian's soul. Beware, for only one whose soul is clear and whose blood is pure can go beyond this door and hope to survive. Death shall slay, with blades from below, those who bear false heritage. What does this mean? He thought, reading the scripture again. I believe that this is a message to any member of this Kazama clan, that Agni and Rudra spoke of, who comes and takes the trials. Kyuubi said, with Naruto raising an eyebrow. But I have nothing to do with this clan. But then again, I'm not one to turn down a challenge, and who knows, there may be some valuable shit in there. Naruto thought before shrugging his shoulders and pushing the doors open, and walked in on to see that there was another archway. Once more he shrugged his shoulders and walked down said archway and was now standing before an archway that said, knowledge, in front. He looked at the kanji and saw that it had a scripture under it. You can only trust the knowledge that you would learn in the least likely of places. He scratched his head in confusion before shrugging his shoulders. Without anything else to say, he walked straight into the archway. After all, what harm could that do? Hello to you all and whatnot. I just wanted to announce that this will have S in it, but I need to know who gets the meat stick fi. RST. So, your choices are Hinata, Haku, Anko, Tenten. The will come later on in the story, so you have some time to vote on it. Also, there is a surprise in this one and it may make you question yourself as a DMC fan. Oh, and by the way, I was going to make this a surprise, but I figured why not ask. What can any of you tell me about Soul Calibur? I'm thinking of trying that, but I don't have the time to get the game, so I want to know what you know. Also, I kinda ed up last chapter and I really shouldn't have introduced the princess last chap. So I'll go back and change that and I'll introduce her next chap. And I advise you to go back and read chapter 5 because I added in the Naruto Nevan fight since I felt it would be better there than in he. Oh, one last thing. Within this chapter is something that I've been given the green light to use. I won't tell you nor give credit to the author that did this until the very end, but to those that have read the story that featured this will know who I borrowed from. Now let's get it on. The boy continued down the dark tunnel with his night vision working at its maximum. Sometime down here, it got so dark and quiet that it was beginning to freak him out, and that was saying something. He continued until he saw a clearing at the end. He walked past it and looked around the room with only thing there was a pedestal and a statue right behind it. Said pedestal held a weapon, which was gold in color and was radiating energy all around it. The weapon had what looked like a face with a horn on it, and the whole frame appeared to be painted sheet metal. Naruto immediately knew that this was a gun, and a nice one at that. Who dares wake me from my slumber? Tell your name or else you shall meet death. The gun said, with Naruto looking confused before he shrugged his shoulders. At this point anything was a given, and this was a big exception on that part. So Naruto instead spoke to the gun, which was once again confusing, but it didn't matter at this point. NT. My name is Sparda Namikaze Naruto. What is your name? Naruto asked. My name is Yasuragi, peace. What would make you think that you were worthy of me, when you do not carry the name of Kazama? At the same time, how were you able to dodge the other demons to get here? Quote, it's simple really. I just defeated every last one of them to get here. In fact, if it wasn't for certain powers at my disposal, then I wouldn't even be in this location in the first place. Naruto said. He was sure that had certain things not changed at that crucial point in time, then the chance to make change would be impossible to even consider. Interesting. Tell me, what would make you think that you were able to defeat the demons if you weren't born of Kazama blood? Yasuragi asked, with Naruto rubbing his chin. I would say that it wouldn't stay strictly on the lines of blood. If this clan was able to do it and I'm not from this clan, it would mean that you were a member by bond, not by blood. Naruto said. I mean, sure, there were ways to increase your clan's bloodline without the need of multiple wives, but you would need absolute trust that the person holding your bloodline would honor his word, and that was a risk not worth having. Very good answer, Naruto. I'm glad to say that you passed the first test. Yasuragi said, with Naruto looking confused. What do you mean that I passed? I didn't even do anything. Naruto asked, only to see the demon gun laugh at that. Yes, you did. You just said as the way of the Kazama clan. They always believed that with no true bloodline to call them clansmen, they allowed in any member that fit the criteria and made them promise to honor the code that the clan has set. I see that code in you, and as such I allow you to use me. Yasuragi said, with Naruto reaching forward and grabbing the gun. When his hand touched the gun, his eyes turned deep green. Naruto simply pointed the gun to the statue that was in front of the pedestal and gripped the trigger. Naruto then saw a white orb appear in front of the firing point before he released the trigger and watched the orb destroy the statue on impact. He gasped at the power that it gave off before the gun simply dispersed and went into his body. He looked around for his new tattoo and saw that it was now between his navel and his chest. It looked like a black upside-down star with 5 points on the open areas and a circle around the star. Naruto kinda felt disappointed that the tattoo looked standard as compared to the others, though person. Ally, he liked Nevin's the most. Why, thank you, master. You look even more handsome with them. Nevin said, making Naruto look around only to find the green-skinned succubus was nowhere to be found. Nevin, how are you able to speak to me? Oh, you didn't know? Well, I guess that is understandable, seeing as how you talk to Kyuubi on an everyday basis, and you are his vessel. Cerberus isn't a talker like you would think. You told Agni and Rudra not to talk, and Dagon refuses to talk to you aft. You stabbed his tongue. Even though technically you did us all a favor, as he would talk you to death if given the chance. However, I'm not like them and I can speak to you freely. She said, with Naruto nodding. Naruto then walked towards the open doorway and went to the next archway that held the kanji for courage under it. He read the scripture and saw that it said, in order to know your true power, you must stand to face your greatest fear. Quote, he was a little skeptical, but after worrying himself that this was the only way for him to get his out of here, he walked through the archway and into his next test. He looked around and saw that it was a giant arena of sorts. He remembered that on the day he was awake during Iruka's history nap time CL, he taught about the ancient warriors known as gladiators. These gladiators held battles, which in some cases were considered one-man wars, in large places called colosseums, buildings that were built to withstand war held inside. Naruto felt much marveled in himself at the fact that he was standing in such a place, and couldn't wait for the chance to fight in it. His thoughts were soon ended when he heard a voice behind him. Hello, son, said the voice behind him, making Naruto freeze for a second and turn around only for his eyes to widen. Behind him was a man wearing the standard Junin outfit with a white trench coat over it and red flames licking the bottom. However, Naruto wasn't concerned about that, now he was far more concerned with the mon's blonde hair and blue eyes. Blue eyes that held massive amounts of hate and disgust in them. Naruto's could not believe his own eyes. Standing before him was his father as well as the man responsible not only for he hell in his life but his great power as well, the Yondaime. But how this man was standing here was beyond him. Father, how are you? Before Naruto could answer, he ducked under a kunai slash by his old man, and blocked a kick that Minato sent his way. Don't you dare call me your father. My son died on the day the Kyuubi attacked, and I'll be damned if I call you my son, demon. Minato said with Naruto's eyes widening in shock. How could his own father say that to him? He always heard tales of how the Yondaime was a kind and gentle person to those that has earned respect from him, and when he was angered, you would face wrath far worse than a woman scorned. But the question was, how did he lose that love? But why, father? What have I done? Naruto asked, only to duck under another slash and kept dodging. Because you killed my wife and child, the only two things I had in the world. I sacrificed my life for them, I died for them, and what did you do? You killed my wife by taking possession of my son, the only piece that I left in this world that was I. And I'm going to make you pay for it with your life. Minato said before opening his right hand to reveal a swirling orb of chakra. Naruto's eyes widened seeing that happen, as he never thought that for 1 second that chakra could do that. But he would have to cut his thoughts, as he jumped back and watched the orb destroy the ground he once stood on. Before he could marvel at the destruction it caused, he quickly turned and brought his arms up to block another slash by Minato, but was punched back to the ground and landed on his back. However, he didn't have time to rest, as he placed his hands on the ground and back pushed himself away from Yondaime, who formed another Rasengan and slammed it on the ground. Naruto looked from his position with shocked eyes that his own father was trying to kill him. In addition, the thing was he didn't know if he could fight his father. He grabbed his head in confusion, as a large headache built up inside. What should I do? What can I do? I can't fight my own father. Naruto thought as his brain racked against his skull, though he wasn't concerned about that. He was still trying to figure out what he did to lose the love of his father. It was then that his eyes widened. This was his fear, to lose the love of not only his father but that of his hero. He could honestly say that thanks to his father, he had the power that he has wanted for all his life. Sure, it was the result of him being alone, but he knew that his father gave him the Kyuubi because he was the only one worthy of holding the beast. Therefore, he got up from the ground with a huge smirk on his face, as he saw his father stand up from his position. The look on the monk's eyes were still cold as ice, but this time Naruto wasn't bothered by it. So I take it, you're ready to fight me now? The Yondaime said in a cold tone. Might as well, can't let my old man think I'm weak. Naruto said, standing tall. Before he could say anything else, Minato appeared before the boy with his fist above his head. Very well then, he said before placing his hand on the boy's head and ruffled his hair, "Upmy son." Minato said with a smile on his face, as Naruto looking confused. But how could I? The whole point of this test was for you to get over the fear you had deep down, of me hating you like the villagers. I can say this to you though that I don't hate you, seeing as how I'm responsible for a lot of the shit you went through in life. He said with his head down, but he brought it back up with a smile. However, I know you can get through it, after all you are my son. Minato said. But Dad, how are you here right now? I'm here, because I'm only a representation of your fear. I'm still dead, he said with Naruto looking down in sadness after hearing that. He hoped deep down that his father was alive again, but to hear the man tell him that his wish wasn't true. Don't worry Naruto, we'll meet again someday, but I have to go, my time here is ending. He said as he began to slowly turn full white. I give this gift to you my son, and I hope you use it well. Goodbye, Minato said, touching Naruto's forehead that transpierced some of his energy into the boy. Naruto then watched his father turn into a white orb and enter his body, making him buck for a second before he gained knowledge. This was not a devil arm like he thought he would get, but what he received from his father was a new style called Serenity. He had a deep smirk plastered on his face after looking through everything the style gave him. But he also learned something else in his mind, and it didn't involve the style. So that was your gift. Thank you, father. Naruto thought before he took one last glance at the area before he walked to the next archway with a tear trailing his face. Don't worry about it, Kit. For what it's worth, your father is one of the only 3 people I've grown to respect more than myself. Kyuubi said with Naruto wiping the tear from his face. Really? Who were the other 2? Single quote. The first was Sparda, the second was your father, and well, the third is someone that I knew for over 12 years. Kyuubi said with Naruto looking confused before a smirk came to his face. Thanks, Kyuubi. He thought before he continued and saw the last archway held the kanji for strength, with the scripture saying, to prove your power, an opponent must be the shield that blocks your path. Now face this shield and become your true being in the Kazama clan. Quote. Well, I guess this is the last spot I need to go. Naruto thought as he walked off the archway and into the dark tunnel. He continued until he saw a door that was closed and looked locked somewhat. He placed his hands on the door and felt it open completely. He then walked in, but at that second the door shut and he was locked in. Before Naruto could do anything, the door was covered with the same fire seal that covered the gate outside. He scratched his head before turning around and looked around the room he was in. The room looked like a huge ballroom but was major wreck over years of being vacant from people. The gold-plated ceiling had holes in various places with one huge one in the corner. He saw that the floors had dirty green carpeting with what looked like blood on various places and scratches as well. He knew that whatever this test was, it was going to be a big one. His thoughts were confirmed when the room began to shake and a gigantic black claw punched through the wall. Follow. Ed by 4 more. Naruto heard the loud scream behind the wall as the claws crossed and pulled the wall back into the darkness. Naruto watched with his arms crossed as he watched a set of glowing eyes in darkness before 8's legs came out from the darkness and revealed the creature to Naruto. It looked like a huge, armored spider. 8 clawed legs sprouting from its back instead of its sides, and a long, armored tail that appeared to have a large stinger attached at the end. This giant spider, scorpion, had a head that almost resembled a human's, if it didn't have about 20 gl. Owing eyes and a huge mouth full of enormous, dagger-like teeth. It also seemed to be wearing some kind of helmet, but it seemed to serve no real purpose other than protection. Overall, to Naruto, he was not impressed. Aw, would you looky here, a nice little snack for me in damn near 90 years. The large Onagumo said with Naruto looking intrigued, only to be stopped by the laughter of Kyuubi in his head. Kid, whatever you do, don't try to go all out for this pathetic excuse of a demon. Kyuubi said with the voices of the other demons in Naruto's collection, laughing as well. Yeah, master, this is the demon spider, Hanon, the so-called master of the shadows. He mainly depends on his armor and large size to kill his enemies and so-called prey. Sure, that armor may help him, but his underbelly is completely exposed and his greatest weakness. Just attack him with till he's distracted enough and stab him in his belly. Nevin said. You all sound like you know him. Single quote. I had a run-in on him a while back and used him and the supposed King of Flame burial as training dummies for that demonic fire jutsu I taught you. Trust me, kid, hit him with that and he is done. But I should warn you not to use your guns, including your demonic guns. Kyuubi said with Naruto scoffing. Well, that sucks. Got anything on weakness? The size and armor makes him slow, very slow, so I would say use Yamato on him, mainly. As for the second weakness, it's fire. He can only withstand flames that are produced by a volcano, but he can't take flames created by Amaterasu-sama or Shuka-sama. Just use me when he's exposed his stomach to you, and pour as much fire into him as you can. Kyuubi said with Naruto nodding before giving his attention to Hanon. Human, are you thinking of your last words before I take you out? The Onagumo, now known as Hanon, said only to see Naruto extended his arm and say, Yamato, bringing the okatana to his hands, and wiping his hand through his hair making it spiky. Yeah, just this. Let's rock. He said before the spider raised its legs and sent it down at Naruto as if to kill him in one shot. But Naruto simply jumped back and watched the demon slammed his legs on the ground. He then grasped the handle of his sword and called out, summon swords. Just after he said this, 5 swords made of pure chakra formed and begun spinning around him. The swords took the form of broadswords with a pointed skull acting as the tsuba. Naruto then directed the swords towards the demon spider, who brought its 8 legs in front of its body to shield it from the attack. The armor did its job and kept Hanon safe, but Naruto knew that would happen. Therefore, he began to transfer chakra to his feet, and in a quick burst of speed, he was off. Hanon raised its leg and sent its tail at the black blur before him, only to miss badly. Naruto then unsheathed Yamato, and slashed at the tail only for it to bounce off due to the armor. But instead of letting it bother him, he angled his body like a bullet and stabbed into the base of Hanon, if you could call it that, and slashed it off, making the demon cry out in pain. Hanon then bucked his back up and flung Naruto away from him as he couldn't feel his tail anymore. He looked up to see Naruto, doing some seals before calling out, "Demonic Fire Release, Black Fire Dragon Jutsu," before releasing the huge blast of fire at the Onagumo's body, making it scream out in pain. Kyuubi told Naruto that this was by far his best fire technique invented, due to its ability to absorb heat energy and solar energy. Now sadly there was not any solar energy present, but there was heat, and that was enough to make the jutsu very effective. When the flames stopped, Hanon crawled out and screamed out in pain, "Damn you, you bastard. I'll kill you," the Onagumo said as he opened his mouth and white energy began to build up. Naruto was intrigued by this and was wondering if he should feel a little impressed. He then saw the demon let loose his attack, which resembled the Hyper Beam attack from that crappy TV show Pokemon. That's right, I said it. However, it was a little slow to catch him, so he was able to dodge it easily. He quickly returned Yamato and summoned his great friend Kyuubi to his hands. He then placed Kyuubi in his left hand and held up his right. This was going to be big. Hanon, however, was very oblivious to this as he kept firing blast at Naruto, who simply used his superior speed to dodge that attack. Until the Onagumo fired one that was far stronger than the previous ones, but he was inside the demon's perimeter and jumped at the demon's humanoid head. Said demon looked only to see what Naruto was holding. In Naruto's right hand was a blue orb with what looked like chakra strings swirling around, but Naruto was too busy smirking when he reeled his arm back. I think my father said it best when he named this move Rasengan, he yelled, slamming the orb in the demon's face. Naruto marveled when the attack hit the demon and caused its legs to lift off the ground and hit the wall behind it. Naruto then returned to his right hand and walked towards the downed Onagumo slowly, his blade igniting to red flames while slowly turning blue. Last chance to give up. I refuse to give up to the likes of you. Now die, Hanon said before lunging at Naruto, to devour him. TSSH, fool. Naruto said before the flames that surrounded his blade turned full blue and turned into a wild flame tsunami. Naruto then swung in a wide-angle arc, calling out, "Demonic Fire Release, Scar of the Blue Tsunami." The flames flew at Hanon and consumed him in the flames, thus making the Onagumo cry out at the large amount of pain its body was currently experiencing. And what was Naruto doing right now? He had out a stick with marshmallows on it, which he got from somewhere, and cooked them in the flames and whistling a tone called, "Someone's in the kitchen with Dina." Real old school, before slowly eating them while the spider demon continued screaming until its body exploded and a white orb came out of the flames. Naruto took that as his cue and extended his hands to it, and white orb flew to his hands, and in a flash of light, Naruto now had his new weapon on, and unlike the others, this one looked very demonic. They now formed a pair of gauntlets and greaves that were dark brown in color and were hard like Hanon's armor. Naruto looked at his shoulders and saw that they formed two demon-like skulls with yellow eyes, and the teeth wasn't horizontal like in a human's mouth but vertical, and both sides had what looked like wings on both sides. Naruto then looked at his hands and saw that they now had sharp claws as well as sharp claws on his feet, meaning that he could probably scale walls or make a quick kill. He then took off his headband and saw that his eyes were now dark brown, matching the devil arm. He then returned the newest weapon in his collection and then looked at his body and saw that his newest tattoo did not form on anywhere completely visible by his eyes, but instead of one tattoo, it was two but the same nonetheless. The new one looked the same as the shoulder pads going along his ribcage and continued down to his waist, and the wings frailing down the left and right side of his back and navel. Once he took it all in, he saw the ground shake before him and what looked like a mirror came out with stair leading up to it. What the hell is this? Naruto asked himself. Maybe it's your way out of this hellhole. Kyuubi said with Naruto shrugging his shoulders before he walked up the staircase and into the mirror. It felt like some type of water going in, but he didn't care that much about it as he continued walking to the other side. He came out the other end and saw that he was out of the hellhole, but was not out of the place that seemed to have a never-ending amount of levels to climb. He was now within a forest that had a shrine in the center of the field for something. He looked around and liked the way this place looked but saw a bed in a corner on the other side of the shrine that had a bundle in it. He figured that someone was sleeping there and he didn't want to wake the person up. However, that was put on hold when he felt something behind him. He saw that it was a large silver dragon with silver bat-like wings flapping in the wind. Who are you? Naruto asked. My name is Saiyan, and you have just become the newest holder of the Dragon Clan contract. Now then, I wanted to let you all know that so far I have used pieces from Wanted and Aragon well after this chapter. But what you don't know is that I actually have a couple more planned to use and you won't be able to tell which one, but I will give you a hint. This one won about 3 awards and 1 Grammy, this movie had a trilogy and a look-alike, and the last one was a very popular movie that to this day has yet to be completed. Now let's get it on. Naruto stared at the large creature in shock. The Dragon Clan. Him. He didn't even know how he got here and yet he was now the holder of a summoning contract. Saiyan right. How could I become the holder of the Dragon Clan contract, when I barely even know where I am? Quote, you became the holder of the contract because you went through the trails, very well if I might add. It's customary for all Kazama clan members to hold the contract with the dragons, which is where they got the nickname, the Dragon Riders of the Mountain. You gained the contract because of that one fact that you have proven to be Kazama clan material. However, tell me boy, how is it that you hold more than one soul within your body? Saiyan said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. Dragons are able to see the aura of life and the balance in it. They are well known as being one of the strongest demon clans in the world next to the Kitsune and the Inu of course. Kyuubi said with Naruto nodding. You see Saiyan, I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune and the descendant of the Dark Knight Sparda. Kyuubi counts as one and the rest are all devil arms with their sprites intact. Naruto said with Saiyan nodding. I should have known, but tell me, are you in any way possible related to Kazama Sodachi? Saiyan asked. I don't know who that is, so I can't answer that. Naruto said with the dragon showing off a grin on his face. I see, so the split was successful then. That's good to know. Saiyan said with Naruto looking shocked. Split? What split? Naruto said sounding frantic. I'm sorry boy, I'm afraid that I don't know all the details as all I know that this clan left 90 years ago and joined an alliance with some guy named Uchiha Madara. Saiyan said with Naruto hearing the Kyuubi growl. Kid, I never did tell you why I attacked the village, did I? Kyuubi said with Naruto giving his full attention to his fox companion. No you didn't. Well, it was all due to the man named Uchiha Madara. You see, about 15 years ago, my den was attacked by him and a large group of shinobi, including one that was a pale-skinned snake-like man and another with his eyes looking like the sage of the 6 paths. I fought and killed all but those 3, with Madara losing of his eyes, the snake-like man using something called the immortality jutsu, and the last man, I simply used my chakra to poison him by having him slowly lose his ability to move his body and lose strength. But before I could finish them all off, that man used something called the Chibaku Tensai, in which it incased me in a moon-like prison, and Madara simply used his Sharingan to possess me. After about 5 years, the next thing I knew I was trapped in a kid's belly. Kyuubi said with Naruto looking surprised before his face became serious. Well, at least I now know where to start. Naruto thought before he looked towards the giant dragon and nodded his head. I accept your offer to be the next dragon summoner. Naruto said, as he knew deep down, he was going to need as much power as he could get and dragons were a guaranteed help. Very well. Please hold out your right hand, I need to give you the mark of the dragon. The large dragon said with Naruto nodding and put his right hand above his head. Saiyan then placed right index claw on Naruto's hand and began to draw a dragon symbol on his right hand. Naruto felt the need to bite his lip, as he felt the claw literally dig into his hand and the skin move, but he see. Old feel the power that the dragon placed into the symbol. Soon the dragon pulled its talon back and Naruto looked at his hand and looked at the new dragon symbol on his hand. That mark now bonds you with the dragon clan, and you are now able to summon as freely. Be sure to summon the king when you are able to get your test. Seion said before he left in a puff of black smoke, and took the light that was once in the shrine, thus covering the area in darkness. Naruto looked at his hand once more before he was about to leave, only to hear someone groan before looking back and saw the person that was in the bed was now awake. The girl looked around and found no one but Naruto standing at the shrine, looking out in a daze. Hey you, who are you and where are we? The girl asked with Naruto turning to the girl. I don't know really, I just got here like 10 seconds ago and I'm already confused. My name's Naruto by the way. Naruto said looking the girl over. He had to say that she is cute, with her light blonde hair and clear blue eyes and was wearing priestess-like clothing. The girl looked at him as if she seen him before. His appearance. I felt like I've seen him before. My name is Nodoka. But how did you get here exactly? Nodoka asked standing beside Naruto, while trying to remember where she seen him. If you're the princess then that means that my mission to find you has been accomplished. He said before seeing the little girl look at him in shock. Your mission? How was finding me your mission? I was sent here by the Sandame to come and find you after you went missing a while ago. I actually thought that you were in this clan home that I just came out of, but now that I've found you we can get out of here. Naruto said with Nodoka nodding. However, I would have to move at my usual speed, so I would have to carry you on my back. Naruto said with the little girl blushing a little before nodding. Naruto then bent down on one and allowed the girl to climb on his back, who quickly wrapped her arms around his neck and felt Naruto grabbed hold of her legs. You ready? Naruto asked with the little girl nodding before the boy took off at high speed, with the little girl holding on tight. Later, the former blonde and Nodoka were now racing through the forest at high speed. They were currently just talking to one another about their lives and what happened to them. Naruto told her about his past and how he had to struggle all his life, while Nodoka told him about her mother and how she was beloved in her home by the villagers. Her mother's name is Amatsu, and she was one of the main reasons why the little girl could not wait to become the leader of her village and protect the village with her powers. Speaking of which, when Naruto asked what kind of powers they were, she stated that they were telepathy and that the power is extremely hard to master on your own. She also said that on a few rare occasions that the power would help her be able to see into the future, though they were never accurate on what they showed. She claimed that when the time came and she mastered her powers high enough, she could control the amount of visions she receives. After that, the conversation became silent, but as they ran, Naruto began to feel that something was strange. It was as if something was pulling him towards a different location than what he was going for. He did not know why, but he had the feeling that he was being directed back to the clan house he just left. Indeed, he was right when the house came back into view, but there was some type of dark barrier over the lighthouse and the small houses as well. Naruto, what is that? Nodoka asked, with Naruto stopping in front of compound. I don't know, but I got the feeling I'm about to find out. Naruto said before the barrier opened up and brought them both in. Later on, Naruto woke up after he blacked out for a second and looked around to see that he was in nothing but darkness, with the only form of light being the ground on the bottom, which looked like lava in a way. He stood up, looked around the area, and saw Nodoka was in the air with a bubble around her and said girl was pounding on the barrier in front of her. Naruto took out Blood Fang and fired several rounds at the barrier, but to no avail, they didn't work. Well, that's a bit strange. Naruto said, getting ready to attack again, only to be stopped by familiar voices. So the Sparda boy survived. Can't say that I'm surprised, but it still angers me so. The voice with the deep tone said, with Naruto looking around. Well, if it isn't the Three Stooges rearing their ugly, voices again. Naruto said, hearing a growl from them. That's it. I've had enough of your insignificance in our presence. You must be punished. The stuttering voice said, with Naruto smirking up a storm. WWWL do SS something about it. Naruto said with the voice growling at him. That's it. Release them upon this disrespectful brat. The voice said with Naruto's smirk still on his face. He then heard the sound of breaking GL, as the demons Naruto faced before coming to the tower appeared before him, each holding their signature scythe blades in their hands. Naruto simply summoned Yamato to his hands and simply took a tight hold of the handle. He then vanished from thin air before reappearing behind another one, with his sword behind his back. The demon then split diagonally in half before exploding in sand. Naruto then slashed a couple more demons and was not finding a challenge in either one. Is this all you got? I had far better challenges on your first punishment. Naruto said, cutting of another demon's head before stabbing another through his stomach. You want a challenge, brat? Fine, then we will give you a challenge. Release the abyss. The old voice said, finally showing himself. Naruto then heard the sound of another GL breaking, but didn't see what came until a huge tentacle came out of nowhere. Luckily he was able to jump back far enough in time to dodge the tentacle, unlike the demons he was facing, as they were all destroyed by the tentacle. Naruto looked upwards, to see a strange beast come out of the shadows from the ceiling. The beast had 3 dragon-like heads and a lot of tentacles to use against him. It was with this beast appearance that Naruto could only say one thing. How the did I get into this shit? With Nodoka. Nodoka gasped at hearing the words Naruto just spoke. She remembered having a dream about a white-haired boy, fighting a giant creature with no amount of fear, but before he could have a chance to beat it, he was captured by the monster and was about to be killed before her vision ended. She wanted the boy to live, she wanted the boy to come out of this without any harm done to him, but she couldn't do that with her trapped in this barrier. She then took off the bell that was given to her by her mother and began to pound against barrier with the bell. The bell seemed to be working as cracks began to form, but she saw that she had to hurry as Naruto was now in the air using his strange black fire jutsu and destroyed one of its heads. With a few more hits to the barrier it broke completely and she was now running as fast as her little feet could take her to save the boy, but she was too late. Naruto was caught and the demon was now prepared to send one of its tentacles through Naruto's chest. Naruto, was all she could say as she closed her eyes and prayed the boy would be okay. Naruto. The white-haired boy was now fully aware that he was at the mercy of the demon's attack, and was now trying to get his arms out from the binds that held him, but for some reason the hit never came. He then opened his eyes, and saw that a blonde figure was now holding the tentacle with one hand, while the other was pointed towards Naruto. Geez son, do I have to keep saving your? The blonde said with Naruto gasping. Father. Father. Naruto said seeing the back of his father's coat before him. The white-haired boy could stare in shock as his father protected him from the giant's beast's attack. He was even more surprised when he suddenly felt a pain hit his stomach, and was shot back down to the ground and high. T said ground hard. When he got up he saw his dad standing in front of him with a smile on his face and his arm extended. I told you I would see you again. Minato said with Naruto grabbing his right arm. He was sure that it was broken but could feel Kyuubi repairing the limb. Father, how are you here again? I thought you were joking when you said we'll meet again. He said on to have his head ruffled. Well actually I wasn't. Before my soul disappeared after the test, I transferred as much chakra as I could into your body, and once you were in enough danger I would appear before you as your shield. He said hearing the beast screech while trying to attack them, only to hit nothing but air. That's funny, you would think that after the first one, he would just wait. Minato said before turning his attention back to his son, who appeared to be much better now. So you're only back temporarily? Naruto asked with Minato nodding. Well, this sucks. Why do I keep thinking you're back permanently and you have to go back? Naruto said with Minato laughing to himself. I'm sorry Naruto, but I just can't. The seal is designed so that I remain within the Shinigami stomach, no matter how much I want to leave and be here with you and see you rise to greatness like I know you will. But I couldn't find a seal that could possibly have the same amount of strength as that one did, no less with the amount of time I had to make it. Minato said with Naruto sighing. It's okay dad, I guess I just got selfish but it will power. Naruto said before he got a serious look on his face. Now tell me dad, how do I stop this monster? Naruto asked seeing the demon slam its tentacle into the barrier, but to no avail, it didn't work. You'll have to use the style that I gave you. Minato said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. Serenity. But how can I use it when I barely know how to use my new devil arms? Naruto said with Minato placing his index finger on Naruto's forehead. I'll help you learn it manually. This will give you a slight headache, but you and I will have a small fusion before you know how to use the style. Also Naruto know this, weakness is only a matter of thought. You are only strong if you allow yourself to be strong. Now let's say we kill this beast once and for all. Minato said with Naruto finding a huge smile on his face. This was going to be big. Meanwhile, Nodoka watched, with a heavy heart, as the beast kept altering the boy's only means of defense. She saw the boy about to be killed before the tentacle was halted and the boy was now on the ground, where the beast continued to attack the boy's barrier only to it explode outward and sent the beast back a little and saw Naruto stand tall, with silver-like energy surrounding the boy. She then saw the beast try to send another tentacle at Naruto, only for the boy to hold up his right arm and call out, "Serenity." The tentacle was then blasted away from the boy. Naruto had a deep smirk plastered on his face, as he brought up his right arm and called out, "Rebellion," with the broadsword returning to his hand. Naruto then ran towards the beast holding the blade in its stinger position, and stabbed the downed tentacle and sliced it clean off, making the beast screech before sending another tentacle at him, but Naruto held up his left arm and executed the same move, which blasted the tentacle away with the powerful force it held. The white-haired boy then placed the sword on his back, and ran towards the demon's body, which kept trying to attack him. Naruto dodged all the strikes and hopped into the air before holding out both arms towards the beast, which sent one of its head at him only to implode within itself and explode outwardly, when Naruto used his Serenity technique and caused the head to explode. So that's Serenity's power. The ability to push and pull the force of gravity itself, nice. Naruto thought, as he watched the demon's head fall to the ground leaving only one to fend for itself. Naruto, we need to end this quickly. My chakra is almost out and you can only use this move 2 more times before you're done. Minato said in celestial form, which was slowly fading away. Naruto nodded to his father and spread both his arms, shoulder length apart. In his right hand, he began to form a Rasengan, while facing his left towards the ceiling. Minato's form then placed his hands around the Rasengan, and transfers his power into it. Nodoka saw the orb in Naruto's hands glow bright silver and illuminated the darkness around them. Naruto then used his Serenity technique to push himself off the ceiling and flew at the demon head-on, at full speed. Naruto, you must be very careful when using the Serenity move. Right now, you can only use it a total of 4 times a day, but the more you train in it, you'll be able to use it an unlimited amount of time. But for now never go over that limit. If you do, you'll die. Minato instructed, now side by side with his son, with their Rasengan between them as they neared the demon's body. Father, son, they each yelled as they landed on the demon's body and slammed the orb into it, making the demon cry out in pain. Rasengan, Rasengan, they called with Naruto using Serenity one last time in order to seal the deal. The demon screamed out in pain, before it fell over, dead. Naruto looked forward as the demon's body began to disincarnate, while his father slowly began to disappear in the wind. Naruto gave one final goodbye to his dad, before he vanished and Naruto was once more left alone. Naruto then saw a white orb appear when the demon's body was gone. But this one had a very strange aura to it, as it looked as though it was surrounded in darkness. However, seeing as how it was a new power, he held up his hands up and took the power in. The second it came in his body, it had a very strange reaction to him. He felt deep down, darker. He felt a slight desire to kill more than ever, and punish those that has hurt him. But that wasn't the only thing that he felt, as knowledge came into his head. This power was called Heart of Darkness, which gave him the ability to manipulate shadows to a certain degree as well as use a good amount of techniques that came in conjunction with the power. It seems like this is really just an addition to my affinity with darkness and with a number of techniques to go with it. But for some reason, I can't help but think that I need to be careful when using this power. Naruto thought before seeing Nodoka run towards him, looking surprised at what she just saw. Naruto-kun, what just happened? Are you alright? Nodoka asked, while trying not to look closely at the boy's body. Oh yeah, I'm good. Come on, let's get the hell out of here, Naruto said before picking up Nodoka and sat her on his shoulders, which she enjoyed doing before Naruto took off into distance and away from this crazy. He left the clan house without looking back, not seeing the figure appear near the gate with a smug smirk on his face before he too walked in. It appears that the boy has grown stronger. This will make things far more interesting as the time goes by, but for now I need to wipe out this place before some else discovers it, the figure said as he walked into the clan house. Nobody would ever know what happened in this place, as a MIV shadow overtook the area and sucked in all the buildings into its eternal abyss. The next day. My, that is quite the mission you've been on, Naruto-kun and Miss Nodoka, I presume? He asked with the little princess nodding her head. That is correct, Hokage-sama, though I was surprised that I didn't arrive sooner than I should have in rigor. DS to my coming here, Nodoka said, as she still didn't fully remember how she woke up in the shrine near that strange and old clan home, nor the fact that she met a Konoha shinobi, she had only met through her telepathic powers, but was still happy to know that Naruto would live. But she couldn't wait to go home to her mother and her people. Well, all that matters is that you're safe here. Now, in regards to where you're staying, I would try to find you a hotel as soon as possible if you would like, Sarutobi said with Nodoka looking at Naruto for a quick second before looking at Hiruzen with a small blush on her face. If it's okay with you, Hokage-sama, I would like to stay with Naruto Ki-mean-sama, she said, blushing at her up that Naruto and Hiruzen caught, though Naruto had a deep smirk on his face. What is it about me that the ladies love? Well, I think the tattoos will be a major boost for me now, Naruto thought, looking at all his tattoos that were now all over his body. Hiruzen simply stroked his chin. Okay, I can allow that. Very well then, I'll have you registered in Naruto-kun's address, and Naruto-kun. Hiruzen then handed Naruto a scroll, that there is your payments for the 2B rank missions you have taken, he said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. 2. I only took one, old man, so how could I possibly take 2? Quote. Because one payment is from the mission you just took and the second payment is the incident from Mizuki a while back, he said with Naruto smirking. I didn't pay you when you graduated because your certification didn't go through until a month ago. I'm just paying you double for what you just did, he said with Naruto laughing in his head. I'm going to make it rain in this village, Naruto thought, as he imagined taking all of the money he could and simply throw it into the village and watch the people fight like chickens to get a couple bucks. Okay, old man, I'll see you later, but for now, I need to show Nodoka around the village, Naruto said before picking Nodoka up and sat her on his shoulders. Giddy up, horsey, Nodoka said as Naruto made the sounds of a horse before leaving the room with the old man sighing. Ah, what I wouldn't kill to be young again, or at least to have you back here, my Suhiko Haim, Sarutobi said, thinking of his late wife and all the fun they had in the past together, with them raising their 2 sons and enjoying life. With Naruto and Nodoka, the twosome raced from building to building, while Naruto took the time to glide in the air and enjoy the hang time. Nodoka, however, was a little afraid of heights, but felt that being scared around Naruto would be embering, so she tried her best to be brave. As the dup ran to Naruto's apartment, the white-haired boy showed the girl around the village and the spots he normally goes to. After a while of sightseeing, they made it to Naruto's place and she had to say that it looked impressive on the outside. Naruto landed on the wall next to his apartment's balcony and walked right through the GL door, with Nodoka walking in as well. Welcome to my humble abode, Naruto said before removing his jacket and was now shirtless, which Nodoka caught herself glancing at him multiple times with her blush growing. By the second. So Naruto, you live here all by yourself? She asked with Naruto nodding. The white-haired boy did some seal and closed his eyes. A blue tint covered his body and soon all the tattoos he gained disappeared, except for the Rebellion and Yamato tattoos on his arm and the Kyuubi tattoo on his back, making him look clean and neat once more. Nodoka was confused as she figured the tattoos natural, but to see them disappear confused her greatly. In case you're wondering, the tattoos are the result of the demonic energy that I have absorbed into my body. I just simply repress them, so that I can use my weapons later on. Naruto said, but I can still bring them back out by just simply allowing their powers to come forth. But other than that, I don't have natural tattoos. Naruto said while looking at his arms and saw that rebellion in Yamato was still present, and if push comes to shove, Kyuubi was as well. Though I still don't understand how you three never leave. Oh well. Naruto thought before he took Nodoka to the guest room. The guest room was about the size of any normal apartment-sized room, except Naruto's was bigger due to the master bedroom status it had. Nodoka liked how big the bed was and was happy with the view she had of the village, even though she would only be here for a little while. When she turned to ask the white-haired boy a question, she saw that he changed into a different look. This time he wore a black mesh shirt under a black vest with a few pockets in the front with red pants that had small pockets on the side and had his headband tied around his waist like a belt. She also saw that he had the Yamato tucked into the headband, though for what reason she did not know. Come on. Let me take you to the best place this village has to offer in food, he said with the princess nodding her head and followed behind the boy. This was going to be quite fun. Later, Naruto now stood in the outskirts of the village, wearing the same getup as before. He was busy trying out his new power, Heart of Darkness. He was busy trying to master one of the 5 techniques that were given to him by the style, though it proved to work very well with the Yamato. The technique was called Shadow Streak, from Burning Truth. Thanks bro, and it was a good move. It allows him to manipulate his image in the form of afterimages and would follow you as if you were moving at super high speeds. They could also individually attack with the creator, so that way he can use 3 attacks instead of 1. He could not wait to master this move, as that would make fighting a lot more fun and faster. But after a while of training, the time came for when Naruto would bring out the boss and introduced himself. He bit his hand and quickly did some seal before calling out, summoning jutsu, dragon, and the whole area was covered in black smoke covered the area and a huge black dragon stood there at about 200 feet tall. The dragon had huge black bat-like wings that if fluttered would possibly summon a wind so powerful, that it would blow the village over. The dragon then looked at Naruto with its huge gold eyes and spoke with a booming voice. I take it that you are the new holder of my clan's contract after nearly 100 years. The giant said with Naruto nodding. Yes. My name is Namikaze Sparda Naruto, honorary member of the Kazama clan and descendant of the Dark Knight Sparda. Naruto said with the dragon looking curious. That's quite a resume you have on your hands, boy. I would say that you're like some kind of powerhouse built with very delicate care. The dragon said, as it could read Naruto aura, and could sense a lot of power held within the boy, but the question now was what type of power was the boy hiding? Not really. Due to a recent turn of events, I am now gaining more power by the day and I need to go through a large amount of training in order for me to keep full control of it. Other than that, I guess I am a powerhouse. Naruto said, starching the back of his head. Unbeknownst to him, due to his position, the giant dragon spoke. I barely know you, yet I like you already, kid. I would say that you are indeed a worthy summoner of my clan and deserves to be able to summon us. However, I think that there are some things I need to tell you. The dragon said with Naruto looking intrigued. What would that be? Naruto asked with his arms folded. In my clan, all dragons have the unique ability to manipulate all the elements at our disposal, but in some cases most dragons can only use fire along with a special trait that they're given from birth. Such as my 4-time great-grandson, Saiyan. He is what is known as a Stardust Dragon, because he has the ability to fly out of the atmosphere and into orbit, as well as use the cosmic energy the world gives us. Some dragons can use darkness, fire and wind to make dark flames while others just cannot use any type of element. I am of some odd dragon class, as I can manipulate the elements but I can only use dark flame as my main element. You would have to be very cautious about summoning us and make your choices wisely. Is there anything else you need? Yes. I thought that I would need a test to take in order to summon you without worry. Naruto asked with the dragon nodding. That is true, but seeing as how you impressed me beforehand, I'll just simply say that you did take my test and beat it. Goodbye. The dragon said with Naruto nodding before back flipping off the dragon's nose and watched as black smoke covered tea again. Naruto then opened his hands and called out, Serenity, push, and began to slowly descend back to the ground. He then summoned Pandora out before he turned it into its bike form before getting on and rode back to the village. Today was a good day.